will branch into Sierra Leone. Yes, Sierra Leone, the Lion Mountains. Today we're talking about a man by name Reverend Samuel Johnson, the man whose photograph you see here. Very serious face. My brother, my sister, Samuel Johnson. Yes, Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson. Some people say Samuel. But in this class, we'll say it the way we know it. Samuel. Samuel Johnson. My brother, my sister, was born on the 24th day of June in 1846. Oh my God. And he died on the 29th of April in 1901, 8 years before Kwame Nkrumah was born. So Nkrumah never grew to see this guy. He was not even born at the time he died. And this man here was Nigerian, even though he was born in Sierra Leone. In fact, the capital, Freetown. My brother, my sister, he was a priest. And he was something else. He was an Anglican priest. He was a diplomat and a historian of the Yoruba people, as well as the great-grandson of Alaafin Abiodun. How many of us remember Alaafin Oluodun? How many of us remember? How many of us remember Alaafin Abiodun? He was a powerful Yoruba king of the Oyo nation. Today, my brother, my sister, we are talking about the Reverend Samuel Johnson. In fact, he was most notable for the magnum opus, the history of the Yorubas, and it was published long after he died. In fact, 20 years after he died. How did this happen? Today, my brother, my sister, I have all the story here, and in the next 5 minutes, it will be over. As you were told, the Reverend Samuel Johnson was born on the 24th of June, 1846. He was an Anglican priest, a diplomat, and a historian of the Yoruba people. In fact, he was a great-grandson of Alaafin Abiodun, who was a powerful Yoruba king of the Oyo nation. My brother, my sister, he wrote a book entitled The History of the Yorubas, but it never got published until 20 years after he died in 2021. My brother, my sister, now the story was told about the traditions and history of the Yoruba, which he thought at the time was fast fading away, and he needed to record and document that. But the book got missing during the World War I. And when it got lost, my brother, my sister, it was found again. How was it found? I'll hold this for now. Now, besides his historical contributions, he led an active life as a minister of God and also a teacher. In fact, he traveled all the way back to Ibadan, the capital city of the Oyo state in Nigeria, and there he taught in a number of schools for free. Now, during the Yoruba Wars, he was an emissary involved in negotiations between the British and the Ibadan chiefs, including the kings of Oyo. He was one of the most learned. My brother, my sister, listen to this. Samuel Johnson was born in a receptive Creole in Freetown, Sierra Leone, as you were told. And he was the third of 7 children of Henry Irugunjimi Johnson and Sarah Johnson. My brother, my sister, his father gave himself the Yoruba name Iro Gunjinmi. He himself was born in 1810. 1810. And he gave birth to his son 36 years later in 1846. My God. Now listen to this as we make progress. Now, his father was in Freetown, and he did all he could to raise his family. My brother, my sister, 7 children. He worked very hard, but he was wealthy, so he didn't have a problem. Unfortunately, something bad happened. Henry himself was an Omoba. That's the word for prince in Yoruba. He was a prince of the Oyo clan and was a grandson of the 18th century Alaafin. That means King Abiodun. He was later captured in the Atlantic slave trade, but fortunately was rerouted to Sierra Leone. That was how he landed in Sierra Leone, where he started making a lot of children. My brother, my sister, he stayed in Sierra Leone, led his life, made a lot of money in that country, and he didn't want to leave Sierra Leone anymore, even though he told his children, always remember where you come from. Sierra Leone is a beautiful home, but it is not your home. My brother, my sister, his son at a very early age was interested in the Bible, so he went to school to become a priest. Our hero for today, Samuel Johnson, remembered his father's warnings when he said, remember your people. He researched into his people's history, wrote the very first book in depth about the Yoruba people. My brother, my sister, and he wrote it whilst he was touring Sierra Leone and beyond, learning his history and also preaching. Now, my brother, my sister, he moved from church to church, preaching and winning more souls, my brother, my sister, for Jesus the Christ. He wrote the book, The History of the Yorubas. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish it, and this is the book here. It was edited by his own brother, Obadiah Johnson. In fact, when he died, the book was lost, the manuscript, but his brother found it and read through and was able to edit it nicely and have the book published. And it became the very first book talking about the Yoruba people in depth. My brother, my sister, that was not the only book he wrote. He wrote other books, my brother, my sister, but this book became the biggest and the most popular of all the books that he wrote. The history of the Yorubas from the earliest times to the beginning of the British Protectorate. The book has since been likened to the decline and fall of the Roman Empire by Edward Gibbon. This book was so deep. It told the traditions of the Yoruba people, and it's almost like the Bible of the Yoruba people. If they need to go back and check out something, this is the book they go to. This book has been published and republished. My brother, my sister, today we have the honor to talk about this great man. In fact, Samuel Johnson, he loved the Bible, but he didn't let the Bible take him away from his traditions like most of our men and women of God do. In fact, he went deep and studied so hard, run his culture left, right, and center, my brother, my sister, and documented everything. Now the book is the greatest book ever written about the Yoruba people. He also wrote the book you just saw, The Grammar of the English Tongue. He wrote that as well, Samuel Johnson. He spoke fluent English, fluent Yoruba, and he knew the Bible by heart. People loved him and they called him their favorite preacher in Sierra Leone. When he arrived in Nigeria, in Ibadan, in the Oyo State, he taught in several schools for free, and he also taught the Bible. In fact, he ordained a lot of pastors and men of God. My brother, my sister, the book has been published over and over, giving several designs, left, right, and center, as you can see here, the history of the Yorubas. From the earliest time to the beginning of the British Protectorate. Today we remember this great black man. He died in 1901, right there in the country that his father told him was his, Lagos, in British Nigeria, in 1901, at the age of 54. We remember this great son of the land. In fact, he had relatives such as Henry Johnson, who was a priest. Obadiah Johnson was his brother, the one we talked about earlier. Samuel Ajayi Crowther, his first cousin. My brother, my sister, and Herbert Macaulay, his second cousin. These were all great historical people. Today we remember you, Papa Uninyame Kowate. He died prematurely at the age of 54. We remember you for keeping the history of the Yoruba people. We remember you for being an honest man of God who moved from one country to country, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. You had your own mind, your traditional mind. You never looked down on tradition. You published the earliest book about the Yorubas. Papa Uninyamenko, Papa Uninyamenko, Papa Uninyamenko, Papa Damrifario, Papa, Papa Uninyamenko, Papa na YB. In the burden of knowledge, I ask you. Now that you know the story of the Reverend Samuel Johnson, Nigerian preacher and historian, who wrote the very first book about the Yoruba people, in depth and deep, what would you do? Bianani ole mini obafe yezunda kagane mezaka yine ye papango bokaya nang fifia ye nyanu kana wo bana enwe be den lele yanjima singa be konne lele yanjima singa beri. It's been the African history class, and my name, Black Rasta.
The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.